was hard.
The mics are unmuted.
Right to find my agenda.
You're unmuted? Yeah.
Well, they shouldn't be muted. You mean they are muted?
No.
No.
So I have a bicycle 10 miles, otherwise.
Did you guys turn them off?
Chair here, I just I'm a little bit tired.
Yeah, I don't know, I've been feeling tired too.
I'm just so hyped up with this medicine. It's just, I gotta calm down. So, a 10-mile bike ride just before the meeting will be good. By now,
What do you got?
You have
with
no
your
mics.
I did the Delta Trail today. And I do something behind the mountain park that ends up about 10 hours to else.
Oh, yeah, that's a good trail.
So otherwise I go out East Lansing area and there's a bunch of trails out there.
You go out
Lansing
there?
River Trail. Sometimes I like to go between 15 and 18.
Is it actually, I don't know, is it in a park or is it like outside, like on the road?
No, I'll stick to the.
I did
trail
not.
trail,
Okay.
so-
That's why I was, is this
Yeah.
the sub Dennis?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for.
Good to know. You can go.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are they off on, Mary, are they off on this?
Are they?
Yeah, they're muted on here. It's not you.
Supposed to be able to touch that thing.
Control panel, so-
To control it.
Mini. Okay. No.
I'm trying now. Just making sure that these. I just tested that one across the room when I unmuted it. And it made noise, so.
You want to start without them? We won't be able to.
Yeah,
Won't this record?
no one will be able to hear us on the Zoom.
Oh, it's just the Zoom.
Something's picking up, because I can see our mic volume going up and down.
Right, reboot, is that what it's trying to do? Don't know.
Well.
Test.
Okay.
Now they're on.
Oh, okay.
We're good at trying. Be careful, because it will get feedback.
Or no. Yeah. My apologies, we didn't have mics, therefore no one on Zoom could hear. We're good. Call this meeting to order. All those in the room and board, please rise from the bench.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Commissioner Fina, will you please call the roll?
No, there.
Trustee Mohica,
Here.
trustee Cascarella,
Present.
trustee Brewer, trustee Bowen.
Here.
Treasurer Fido is here. Madam Clerk,
Present.
you have a quorum, Madam Clerk.
Thank you.
I move to excuse trustee Brewer from this evening's meeting.
Support.
It's been moved and seconded to excuse trustee, excuse me, well, Brewer from the meeting tonight. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Motion to approve the agenda.
Madam Clerk, I'd like to make an adjustment to the agenda. We have a number of people here. I think they're interested in not only making a presentation, but maybe hearing our discussion on the committee of the whole. We have a closed session that's scheduled before that, and we may be in there for a prolonged period of time. I think it would just be courteous if we move the closed session after the committee of the whole.
Support.
Can we notify legal in time to not be paying? Oh, he's already here, so I guess we
Legal's
pay. Okay.
I would say we would have to move the closed session and the continued business.
All right.
So your pleasure is,
Let's put the,
Consent agenda before closed session.
no.
no.
Not the consent agenda, the committee of the
Closed
whole
session, but after the
before.
committee of the whole and the new items of business, items under 8 and 9 after the committee of the whole, before public comments.
So you want 7, 8, and 9 moved?
I gotta stay second.
Brian. No.
Not 7.
Yeah.
Just
It sounds
item
like
8 and item 9, move below item 12.
8, 9 till
8 and 9 below, move item 12.
Item 19.
I'm not doing the Roman numerals, I'm doing the Arabic.
All those in favor signify by saying aye to the adjustment.
Aye.
Public comment. Anyone in the audience that would like to speak to the board for any issue tonight, please come to the mic. If you'd be interested in sharing your name, we would appreciate it, but it's not required.
You can't hear?
No,
No,
you can hear her, but the rest of you are like.
I'll speak up.
Well, raise your mic up. There you go. No, you're right.
It's not on.
Dear elected officials, my name is Tania Castillos. I live in Delta Township for 26 years. I know Mr. Dennis, or that was right. There are some people here that live in the same neighborhood that I do. It's called Brookside Village. And we were very happy to vote for you to represent our interests. You work for us. And we're so happy that we have you working for us. So I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity to talk today. I hope that my accent doesn't get in the way of you understanding my English. Sorry for that. So at Brookside Village, very, very, especially the elder that live in our condo area. I stand before you speaking on everybody's behalf, but especially on mine, because I am extraordinary. So we are used and more about what's going on the development of the land between Kroger and our neighborhood. This is an issue that has been weighing so heavily in our minds, and we seek clarity and transparency from you. We appreciate the dedication that you have shown in roles as elected officials. However, we feel that it's crucial to emphasize that our foremost interest should always be the well-being of your people, your residents, the residents of the township. Now I am screaming. The old saying says, Where there is smoke, there is fire. And there is a smoke in the air. And people are talking a lot about the parcel of land that has been bought by a spouse of one of the elected officials with the intention of requesting federal funds for affordable low-income housing. While we acknowledge the importance of the affordable housing, we are concerned about the broader implications for our community. Affordable housing may not bring the revenue necessary to support essential services that we all rely on, like the one we are talking about. Sorry, I don't know, the policeman. So services like security, fire department, emergency service. Going to a little further. These are funded by taxpayer money, our money. Our money that can be diverted these sources and ultimately impact the quality of the life of our township. We are considering the potential development of this site. We cannot ignore the concerns surrounding security. Affordable housing has been linked to increased instance of criminality by various studies. Many residents fear that this development could lead similar challenges here. We all deserve to feel safe in our houses. I take walks at night because I feel safe. And the new development must prioritize security measures to protect both current and new residents. We cannot overlook the potential effects of property values. We work hard to buy our houses and to make them better. Many of us have invested significant time and finances resources on those homes, myself and my husband included. We are hoping to provide a safe and prosperous environment for our families. Developing affordable housing in close proximity can adversely affect investments and alter the character of Delta Township. We are also concerned about the demands in our public schools, where there is people we need or more need than us. There often comes a need to additional funds and subsidizing help, bills, childcare, support staff. I know I work as a volunteer for years at Grand Ledge Public Schools. They rely on a lot of help for people that need, and it's right to help.
Excuse me, I'm gonna ask you to wrap up. It's limited to 3 minutes and you've gone way beyond that.
Okay, then, so you know our concerns. I appreciate you listening to us. I remember that your names are on the ballot and we are paying close attention to your decisions. And we know that there's not only this election, there will be further. And I ask you, if possible, if we could have a meeting to talk about this subject with the other representatives of the neighborhood. Thank you.
But please remember that anything that happens goes to planning commission first for lots of discussions. So I would urge you to just follow the planning commission agenda that's posted on our website each week.
A big curiosity, who is that region trustee? And forgive my ignorance if I don't know that everybody is.
There's a staff person that handles that, Peter Munzer, but there is a board of peers, just like everyone in the audience, that make up that planning commission.
Okay, I will talk to the clerk when I can.
Okay, that's Peter standing right there.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Mhm.
Minutes. I didn't watch my clock. I was worried about my.
You're good, you're okay. Because there's so many, I am gonna watch the clock though.
That's okay.
Okay, yeah.
Hi, my name is April Bryan and I am at 3343 Wardell Road. I'm here again to express to you the concerns that I have for allowing a short-term rental on our private drive. We have about a 3/4 of a mile dirt 2-check road to our property. It goes through our 5 acres And I don't know if any of you have had a chance since the last time that we were here to take a look at the landscape that we have out there. We continue to have issues. I don't know if any of you had a chance to see the video that I forwarded to you about the intoxicated golfers that were swimming in the river during the night, yelling obscene things. If you haven't, I'll make sure that I send that through to you. I forwarded it to somebody else. So this continues to be an issue. It's a safety issue. I don't understand how that they're allowed to rent out this space without even being approved for a rental license yet. Just last night, we had two ladies coming out and it was pitch black out there because there is no lighting on our road whatsoever. They backed into they pulled all the way down into our driveway, which is quite large of a driveway. And were terrified. They did not know where they were going and they're out in the middle of nowhere. They almost backed into our electrical pedestal and they didn't want to roll down their windows and talk to us because they were terrified. So this continues to be an issue for us. And I just wanted to express our ongoing concerns about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, point of order, just to notify that the people that are interested in this issue, it is a topic for discussion in the committee of the whole tonight,
Correct.
Right.
in case you're not aware.
Good evening. Hi, I'm Kathy Pike. I live at 1900 Stony Point Drive, but I'm here tonight as a member of the Waverly School Board.
Vince Perkins, same. Well, I don't live at the same
No.
address. 334 Meadow.
We're here out of concern for the continued water project that's going on by Waverly Middle School and the high school. We have concerns that there's not safe passage for the children who walk. We've seen children who are traditional walkers to school jaywalking because there's a pile of dirt where they would normally be crossing. Our immediate concerns are our path for the homecoming parade this week. And I know people have been discussing that, so I'm confident it will be resolved, but parents are calling us too, so I'm sure you know that feeling. And we also have kids, I know this one might sound weird to some people, who actually go to their orthodontist appointments across the street or around the corner and won't be able to get there. They even get passes back from the receptionist, school passes, but they won't be able to get there safely. And for those of us who have been longtime members of the community, the name Jasmine Miles comes to mind from that very area. So those are some of the current concerns we would like to share.
Yeah, I just don't understand why it's taking so long to finish that project and finish those sidewalks. I mean, these kids haven't had a safe route to school since the start of school. And they still don't, and it's October, and that's the kids west of Saint Snow Road, and now the kids east of Snow Road aren't going to have a safe route to school either. I was a middle school principal when we all went together and got that safe route to schools grant, and now we don't have safe routes to school, so that worries me. So, thank you.
It is a water main project in addition to just the sidewalks. which
Right, and
makes
the water
it
main
much
there
more
has been laid
complicated.
from Kreitz Road to St. Joe for at least a month, and the sidewalk still isn't done. So that's the problem. I mean, that ground has been filled in for at least over a month, and there still isn't sidewalk all the way through. It shouldn't take that long to build a sidewalk.
Okay, we'll discuss it with our utilities director and he can have a conversation with our contractor. So thank you for bringing it up.
Thank you.
Good evening, board. My name is Scott House. I'm a resident at 4712 Whitetail Lane. I'm here before you to discuss the short-term rental policy. I'd like to elaborate on some of the concerns on Wardell Drive. One, it's a private road, not intended for commercial purposes. It's an easement across private property where up to 14 separate people are crossing that property every day. As you heard, they're interfering with the residents on that street's lives. You know, before this was 5 homes, isolated, a close-knit community. Now you're inviting in various people coming in, destroying that fabric. And we think about what is 14 people? Would you put 14 people in a home as a rental? If you think about that, it has 2 bedrooms. Would you allow 7 people to stay in a single bedroom house? And you think about short-term rental, who's showing up? It's not people that are coming there to crochet. No, they're coming there to party. They're doing stupid stuff. You heard they're in the river. It's going to increase the probability someone's going to do something that requires emergency services, or they might interfere with the residents around there. I think it's inherently dangerous. I ask that you do something about it. I too live along the area in the river. We often respond to people in distress in the water. I'd hate to see someone pass unnecessarily because they were in the wrong place at the wrong time. But that's what happens when people are using substances, and that's the crowd that's being attracted to these short-term rentals. So I hope that you can take this into consideration in your discussions and the policy. And we understand there's challenges with short-term rentals. There's good places for them and there's others that are not. When you're at the end in a remote area where with poor cell service, it's not a good place to put people where they don't know where they're at. Thank you, and I appreciate your consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, members of the board, people of the public. I came here to introduce myself. My name is Brenton Bell. I am a resident of Delta Township and also a candidate for the Grand Ledge School Board this election cycle. I just wanted to come and say hello to everybody. Once again, introduce myself and let you know that if you vote for me, I will work for you. I will work for you as the voters. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you.
Hello, board. Brandon Haskell, live on Cindy Drive, just behind Kroger. I am the county commissioner for District 4, so Central and North Delta Township. I'm here today because I saw on your agenda that the village proposal is going to come up for another discussion. I just wanted to reaffirm my support for this. Obviously, you all know that this was voted on unanimously by Republicans and Democrats from my board. And is actually being voted on now as people get their ballots in the mail. I'm proud to see so many other colleagues of mine from the county here. I unfortunately will not be able to stay long. I have a child with COVID at home and another one that needs to get to dance class in about 10 minutes. But please, I think everyone here should have my phone number, my email. If you have any questions, concerns, please reach out to me. Controller Sobey is here as well tonight, and we'll be happy to I'm sure we'll be happy to field any questions or concerns you have.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Hi, I'm Sue Yeldington, 9477 Nixon Road, Grand Ledge. I'm an Airbnb host and have been for several years. I'm a responsible host. I wouldn't tolerate that nonsense you got going on. I've got a building in my backyard that I want to rent out. And the reason I'm here tonight is I've had a woman that can't afford an apartment and she's going to work at Amazon and needs a long-term place to stay. And she's got a 10-year-old that'll be here on weekends. And it's very uncomfortable because I have 2 rooms in my house, trying to keep a 10-year-old in a small bedroom and no real privacy in a sense. He can't make a lot of noise. It's not great, but that building would be perfect for him. And I want it approved. And I'd love your support on that. And I will not tolerate the nonsense that these people are having to tolerate because I live on the property and I've been a landlord and I'm not tolerating it because, sometimes tenants suck. So I don't let them do that. I get them out. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi there. I'm Diana Bosworth. I was elected your county clerk and register of deeds in 2012, and I've been with the county for over 33 years. So I've seen a lot over my years there. And I want to tell you why I support the county tax limitation proposal very strongly. Because my life has been about service, delivering service to our constituents. The people deserve and depend on these crucial services that we provide. And I am very worried. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about that. We know that the courts and the prosecutor's office and the sheriff's department all take up the largest part of our budget. But we can't forget about the other offices that will be heavily impacted, just as my 3 offices will be. Every office is already struggling at the county, and they will be further impacted if the tax proposal is not approved. The struggles will only get worse. My offices are the county clerk's office, the register of deeds, and the circuit clerk court clerk's offices. And they all have a very real risk of losing staff. And with that, we lose the capacity to deliver those crucial services to our residents. My life at the county has been 33 years of delivering these services, and we need to be able to continue to deliver what the residents deserve. If we lose the capacity to deliver these, it means that there could be delays in issuing critical services, whether it's a marriage license, birth certificates, filing your deed, getting your passport, concealed pistol licenses, and so much more. Because with less staff, our ability to serve is what suffers. In elections alone, I have staff working above and beyond to make things run smoothly and as smoothly as possible as we implement all of the new election laws that have come along in the last 6 years. We do a lot to help the local clerks and jurisdictions in their part in running smooth elections, and they do a wonderful job, but it takes the whole team. The current state of my office is not sustainable. And the writing's been on the wall for a long time, and the board has already cut and trimmed. I've seen it. My office had offices cut way back in 2008, positions, and they've never been refilled. So we make do with what we have, but that's no longer a viable path forward. And that is why the county is asking the public to determine how they want their government to look going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Judge.
Madam Supervisor and Board Treasurer, my name is Janice Cunningham, and I am the Chief Judge of the Eaton County Trial Courts. I want to take my 3 minutes just to tell you a little bit about what the courts do, because I think oftentimes people do not know. The purpose of the courts is to serve the people. We provide a place for civil disputes to get resolved in a professional manner. That goes from small claims where individuals don't have attorneys up to the circuit court where we have multi-million-dollar disputes that we resolve. We resolve disputes between families, whether it's custody, paternity, divorce, parenting time. We work with our juveniles, and we take all the steps that we can possibly take to help them to become productive adult members of society. And yes, we deal with the criminals. If somebody has been found to be a dangerous criminal, it's our responsibility to lock them up. But it's also our responsibility to provide rehabilitation for those individuals that can be rehabilitated and that are struggling. Eaton County courts have been proud to boast a veterans treatment court, a truancy court, an adult drug court, and a sobriety court, both at the district court and the circuit court levels. These courts change people's lives. We can't do our job without technology, and technology has changed so much, and there are so many more things being asked for the county to do technologically for us to be able to perform the services that we perform, including our new jury system, which the citizens have indicated that they like, and our court recording. The Supreme Court tells us that we have to do things. In the very near future, we are going to be required to be part of MyFile, which is a statewide electronic filing process. We will not have a choice. The courts work with the prosecutor's office, the sheriff, and the public defender's office. But we can't do what we do without the great staff that we have. And we are in a position where we are already struggling because of the funding situation. We have not replaced positions by attrition in case we have to lay people off. Every department is doing more, and they're not able to necessarily do it as timely and effectively. We have nowhere to cut, literally. And I know there is frustration. And I know because I had the privilege of sitting where you sat for 16 years. And I know that you are here to serve the citizens of Delta Township. And the reality is the citizens of Delta Township will not be served if we don't get the help that we need. There's frustration with why we got here, but it is not the fault of the 140 court employees and the employees that work for the sheriff's department, the public defender's department, the clerk's office, and all the other people that work every day. We want to be timely, we want to be effective, and we want to be professional. We need your help to be able to do that. Thank you for your time tonight, and it was nice to be back.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Luann. I'm another Wardell resident. And I'll make this short and sweet. This whole short-term rental thing in our space is nonsense. After the guy swimming in the middle of the river in the middle of the night screaming, neighbors get naked, and all of that, and the wedding event, and on and on and on. And now someone stole my yard sign, which made me so mad. I've lived there for 40 years. I never have had problems with that kind of thing. And now, because of that, I have camera up top so that I know what goes on, because I can't see it from my house. Because I'm down the hill on the river, my barn and my space up there is up top. This is nonsense. I mean, we shouldn't have to do this. It's about changing our very way of life, our community, everything else. And it's just uncalled for. Oh, the guy, he vets people. No. You're vetting people. I had a business. He isn't vetting people as good as I could vet my employees. And believe me, that didn't always go well. So, it's just nonsense. And I just want you to know, we've been there a long time. We love our community and our space. We really like to keep it that way. Please come and see if you haven't seen for yourself, because you would understand. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Well, thank you all who did come to speak. It is important that we hear the issues that you are concerned about or that you're happy about. So thank you very much for coming. With that, we'll move on to passage of ordinances. And we have before us the proposed amendment to Chapter 40 Utilities regarding the water system. And thank you. Are you supposed to be here? Do you have a doctor's excuse?
I gave it to her.
Goodness. Okay.
Matt Mackin, Supervisor, Clerk, and Board. Yes, first I'd like to apologize for what I had to do past board meeting to pull. There was communication between communication with EGLE on the posting. But I do have two ordinances, one on the sanitary side, one on the water side, for final adoption. Just as a summary, on 7/15, a colleague of mine and I, we introduced our FOG presentation of what some of the proposal changes. And then in August 12th, we introduced all the ordinances. Just a real quick summary on the FOG, which is fats, oils, and greases. There's 5 main areas. That's a big adjustment or a big correction in our ordinance adjustment. One was the definitions, going from polar and non-polar and really defining in detail the definitions. Interceptor requirements such as, size and manufacture, not a type of a manufacturer, but it must be engineered and manufactured. Also, control manholes are a part of that system. We upgraded our best management practices, BMP. We also really spelled out maintenance requirements, such as keeping maintenance records and logs and requiring them for time duration, and they must be accessible for us as inspections. We also talked about, the capability of to do a very small fine for small infractions that are habitual. So it's a big overhaul on the fats, oil and greases. Also on the sanitary side is the industrial pretreatment, streamlining, which we've had believe it or not, we've had a IPP program for 40 years now. But the federal government 8 or 9 years ago updated their language. And so it's finally working through the mill all the way down to the local level. And we're adjusting our language on the local level to match the federal level. And then on the water side, it's just a few maintenance things such as a mainline valve, which is very simple. It vaguely, our previous ordinance vaguely discussed that, appurtenances, but we spell out on the private side, you must maintain a private isolation valve. Some fire pump language. Right now, our ordinance did not provide the requirement of adding a low pressure suction discharge, or excuse me, a suction low pressure safety valve or shutdown switch, which this language adjusts for that. And that protects the whole distribution system for the entire community. And then we also added some additional language to allow utility as well as engineering to maintain and manage our wellhead protection, our well capping program. So those are the synopsis summary of the two ordinance for both sanitary and water side. And I'll answer any questions you guys, if you have any.
Would anyone like to make a motion? Thanks, Rick.
I would.
Beth?
I move that the Delta Township Board adopt amendments to chapter 40, sections 40 through 59, sections 40, 59, 40, 61, 40, 64, and 40, 95 of the Delta Township Code of Ordinances. The township clerk is hereby directed to advertise this adoption in local newspapers.
Is there support? It's been moved and supported, to pass the proposed ordinance amendment. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. And then Rick kind of summarized. Andrea?
I was just gonna make the second motion. I move that the Delta Township Board adopt amendments to chapter 40, sections 40. What's that?
234.
Thank you, 4234-40, -265, 40-266, 40-268, 40-278, 40-284, 40-388, and 40-389 of the Delta Township Code of Ordinances. The township clerk is hereby directed to advertise this adoption in local newspapers. Support.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to support the ordinance.
I have a comment.
I'm sorry.
I have a comment before we vote.
Yes.
I would just like to commend Rick and Ken Herman on being proactive in this, in protecting the assets that the township has in terms of our water and sewer services, protecting our investment, and making sure that all of the public dollars are being utilized to the best of our ability and upgrading all of our systems. So thank you for this overhaul and your attention to these details.
Thank you.
And thank you for your patience with Eagle, because the delay was not on your department, so. And we all know that. Thank you. Any other comments?
No.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you.
Moving on, we have the consent agenda before you. I'll entertain a motion.
Just, go ahead.
Don't.
Oh, I move to support the consent agenda as presented.
Support. It's been moved and supported to approve the consent agenda. Would you please call roll?
Trustee Cascarella,
Yes.
trustee Mohica,
Yes.
trustee Bowen,
Yes.
treasurer Fido is a yes, clerk Clark,
Yes,
you have 5 affirmative votes.
thank you. Moving on down, we have new items of business. boards and commissions. We have the appointment of Peter Skiles, who is, I believe, if Peter's still in here, he's our alternate now, is that correct?
So Peter Skiles is currently an alternate in the ZBA, and he would, if approved tonight, move up to be a full-time member. That would leave the ZBA with one full-time member spot and one alternate, two alternate spots left. So still,
To fill
still
even
more work to do.
Okay,
Okay.
but Mr. Skiles is not with us this evening?
He's not here tonight.
Okay.
I told him he had the night off. He'll be here next Tuesday or tomorrow night for the zoning board of appeals. If
Yeah.
anyone in this room would like to come to that meeting.
Well, because we discussed before that board members don't get a chance to meet these candidates or speak to them before we're asked to vote on them, and
We've already voted on him. to
because
be
he was an alternate,
alternate.
that's what I
Yes.
thought. Yeah, it didn't say that in the memo.
I will emphasize that next time around. I did not know that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Andrea, for you.
I move that the aforementioned person be appointed to the Township Board Commissions, and that the clerk is hereby directed to send notifications to all of those selected, informing them of their appointment. And I would like to make a comment, but I'll wait till it's.
Their support.
There's a.
I'll support.
Yes, Andrea.
I'm happy to make the motion and support Peter moving to a full-time member on the board. Obviously, we've got some other vacancies and really encourage that we continue to fill especially those positions of alternate members. We've clearly been using those members, and that role as an alternate really prepares them well when they do transition as a full-time member, and it's been working well as a policy, and with some of these unexpected but recent changes on the board, having kind of folks in the queue and learning that process with the ZBA is really valuable. So when they step in that full-time role, so just really encourage if we could fill those other positions.
We have a motion before us. All those in support signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Brian, I don't. No, we wanna move, are you in agreement to move the manager's report stuff later in the agenda also, or you?
That's fine. So he wants to do it.
I don't think we moved that as part of the.
I didn't
agenda.
know exactly what all you
Back
said.
it all.
Okay, so we'll move on to committee of the whole, and the first item up is short-term rentals.
Good evening, everyone. Members of the board know me, but to those in the room that have not met me, my name is Peter Menser. I'm the Director of Planning and Economic Development. So on the agenda tonight is a discussion on short-term rentals. I just wanted to provide a little bit of a preamble before you get into your discussion. So there's a memo in your meeting packet. I don't know what page it's on in the big PDF, but you can find it. Anyone else following along in the room or at home? It's in under the, what do we call this? Committee of the whole section on the meeting agenda. There's a memo from the planning department in there. So I was considering this kind of part one in a probably day one of a multi-series discussion on housing and housing policy. So we're going to start with short-term rentals. It's obviously the issue of the minute in terms of getting the most attention at the moment. So short-term rentals are typically rentals that are less than 30 days. It can be defined in a number of ways. For now, that's going to be our working definition of that, and we can establish that more as we move forward. Certainly, this has been a controversial topic around the state. In some communities, certainly more than others. We are a lakefront community. We don't have Delta Township is a great place to live. It's not necessarily a place that people come for short-term stays, although that is changing. So some of us, myself included, thought there'd be some sort of statewide regulatory framework for short-term rentals. There has been a lot of activity in the last several years on that, but nothing has stuck. So there's nothing to materialize. We don't have anything to refer to at this time. There's a lot of conversations on both sides of that coin, but the bottom line is we don't have anything to refer to in the state legislature. So while this hasn't been a particularly big issue in Delta, the last time you talked about this was last June. At the time, that got on your radar due to what I'll call kind of a party house that was in a neighborhood. That was addressed, and I think the property changed hands. And then most recently, tonight, there's a large house on Wardell Road that's right on the Grand River. That's on our radar thanks to the neighbors. That owner has been operating, it lists, has several listings on Airbnb for that property. And has applied for a rental license, has not been issued that license yet. The unit has been inspected, they just haven't finalized that. So, and they're currently advertising online for short-term rental occupancy.
Peter, can you tell us what was done to deal with the other party house? You said that was dealt with. Do you know what happened?
I don't know, actually don't.
I believe that one was, I believe that one sold relatively after that.
So the owner voluntarily just got out of the.
I think they,
short-term rental
yeah, they had
business.
fixed up the house, I think rented it short term for a while and then
And it's-
after our,
So it sort of resolved itself.
correct.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know.
Well, yeah, without township intervention for the most part, I think they were cited for noise. Maybe there was some intervening there, but otherwise, no policy change.
Okay.
And I believe, if I may, I believe there was an issue about the homestead exemption at that residence as well while it was being rented. So that may have been part of the impetus for the change.
So
That was
go
an
ahead.
absentee property owner,
Yes.
Right.
just as this one on Wardell is.
Correct. Yeah, the property on Wardell is owned by someone that does not live in the home. We can get into that detail because that is an important aspect of kind of that would determine. I mean, there are a lot of kind of decision branches with this policy and with everything else we're going to talk about from here on till forever. But so that's one of the discussions that we can have is kind of whether you want to require an owner occupied structure or otherwise. So, personally, I like to tackle policy discussions by looking at kind of all the options and assessing might work best for our community. To do that, we really need to look at what other communities around the state are doing. Best practices identified by groups, by trade organizations, professional groups like planning groups, municipal league, those kind of things. Educational outlets like the MSU Extension, other groups that look at municipal policies, and then present that to the elected officials so you can get the entire picture of what's going on. And from there, we can settle on an option that best fits our community. Sometimes it's very straightforward and we can fit a policy in for our community. Sometimes we need to kind of Frankenstein bits and pieces into something that works best for us because every community is different. It's not, in my experience, it's not as easy at looking at one community adopting their policy because we just cannot compare, very often can't compare the two. So in our ordinance, and I don't want to read the ordinance to you, or I don't want to read the memo to you, but really right now we address short-term rentals kind of for lack of a different policy as just rental units, like any other rental units administered by our building department. They are licenses required. They pay an initial fee. They have an initial inspection and then they have ongoing inspections on a 3-year basis. Then that unit has to meet some basic property maintenance standards. And that's a rental unit. I mean, in a nutshell, there's a lot more to it than that, but I'm not convinced that's probably the best approach for short-term rentals. It's not robust enough to address with really more unique challenges that short-term rentals present. So we've kind of muddled through until now, and now that we are getting some more of these, and particularly on more unique properties, it might be trying to change course on that. So our team has identified 4 options you might consider in addressing short-term rentals. In our memo, really, we have continue with the current approach. There's always the do nothing approach, right? Keep regulating them as long-term rentals, requiring inspections, registrations. We could look at prohibiting short-term rentals outright. Our team looked at several other communities that had done this. Mostly Ann Arbor did go through and ban them, but later were forced to change course on that after some significant backlash. I don't know if that's the best option. There might be legal challenges inherent with that as well. The third option is adding short-term rentals as a special land use permit in our zoning ordinance. That on the surface seems like what might be a viable option. However, the inherent kind of policy and process that goes along with the special land use permit might not lend itself well to this. There are some communities that take this approach. So what that would entail is just like any other special land use permit at the planning commission, there'd be a public hearing, we do public notice. They would move from the planning commission to the township board for action. If we decided that would be that way, it could end with the planning commission. The real challenge, I think, with that approach is that property rights are transferable to new owners every time. So the approval stays with the property. So revoking a special land use permit can be challenging. Any special land use permit can be challenging. And if the board were to later amend the short-term rental policy, so let's say on 30 days from now, we identify a policy that works. Changing that later, we would have to deal with legal non-conforming status of properties that were approved under that approval. That might not be the most flexible option. It's certainly an option to regulate it and to enact different operational requirements or standards, but I'm not sure if that would get maybe where we want to be with it. So the fourth option, and there are probably more than four, is that we could create a new separate standalone short-term rental ordinance. So that would be outside of the zoning ordinance. It would be in the code of ordinances. And so unlike the township's existing rental process, we would be providing public notice right now. A registered rental does not get any kind of notice at all to neighbors. And we could really enact and kind of customize the ordinance as to how we see fit. And there's a lot of information that we could draw on in other communities, best practice, all the other things I mentioned earlier, and the review standards for these licenses. So typically the way we've seen them so far, their permits would be annual. They require reapplication every year. There's a couple advantages to tackling it via a standalone ordinance. One would be applications could be reviewed by the township board. I would not expect that would be something that the planning commission would handle. You'd have the ability to adopt stronger revocation language, so to remove the licenses, and then offer quicker ordinance adoption or amendment process. It goes much faster as changing a code versus change like with this, the fog ordinance, changing code like that goes faster in terms of process than zoning ordinance policy adoption does. Then we'd have the ability to require annual license renewals to ensure ongoing compliance. So you'd have yearly reviews. So on pages 3 and 4 of the memo, I really kind of go into, and I just wanted to give you an idea of the breadth. This is certainly one of those, everything that's not here, but not limited to what you're seeing here. These are examples of the types of regulations, the types of provisions that get added to some of these ordinances. So there are a couple of really good communities. Ferndale is one example that has a really robust program. Now, I think they also have a large staff and they are on it. They have a different, I'll say, pressure on them. They have more of them. So I've divided into 2 categories really. As qualifications. So those are like what kind of properties would qualify for a license? So I heard some of the folks tonight, for example, talking about requiring direct access from a public road. That among many other things could be the kind of things where we narrow the channel of the types of properties, where they're at, how they're shaped, all that kind of thing, and who would qualify for a license. And then operational. So there could be any number of regulations that the township could put in our ordinance that would require that. Now you can never legislate bad behavior away. We can do our best to put safeguards in place and have good enforcement, but we can do better. And I think on the front end, we can do better in helping people inform the people that are renting and what they need to know, moving it, getting those people on the front end, providing information, but also having some standards so that the person that's renting the property and the people that are occupying the property know exactly what the expectations are. So I guess we provided some options for you. I'm interested to hear kind of the direction that the board would like us to go in. If directed, the planning team could draft, put together a draft ordinance that would include some of the provisions you're seeing here in the memo, some that might come out of the discussion tonight, some that we may learn about between now and when the final draft is adopted, if we go in that direction. And so I'm available certainly to answer any questions you might have. If I don't know the answer, I will do, and I may not, I'll do my best to get it and come back to you with something. Thanks.
Excuse me, go ahead, Andrea.
Peter, I just want to thank you for that briefing and really appreciate you flagging early the Ferndale ordinance as something to look at as a model. This is an issue I've a little more intimately familiar with, and I know Ferndale gets a lot of accolades for the strong policy they have that really protects the interest of residents in the community. So appreciate that. I know there are a lot of nuances that we'll work through to make sure we get the right fit for Delta Township, but this is really helpful conversation to start.
Did you have something?
Sure. I would just like to, again, yes, commend you. Thank you for bringing this up. I asked specifically in response to a resident that we wanted to have this conversation. She came in and did public comment before. I think that one comment about this that I want to make is that this is great and we should move forward with this in something that's specific to Delta Township. But I'd like the people in the audience and anybody on the Zoom to know that this does not solve immediate problems. But this will set us up going forward to hopefully prevent the same kind of problems from happening in the future. And hopefully we'll be able to discuss any kind of immediate remediation that we can give to any residents who are experiencing problems. That's all.
Dennis?
Yeah, I appreciate the different options here, Peter. You know, I think in a perfect world, something would jump out, but the one that's closest to that, I think, is the zoning ordinance, you know, mechanism as you have there as a recommendation, gives us the flexibility. I definitely am leery of doing a special land use permit option on that. And we can get through the different specifics of, you know, whether it's a 1-year annual, like, you know, renewal license, or if it's a 3-year, whatever, like our rentals are, that can be all worked out later on. But, you know, as the fundamental basis is to use that mechanism that gives the township basically the flexibility and the opportunity to hear our residents, and that the board actually would be involved directly rather than the planning commission making the decision in our stead. So that's what I prefer in the option to go. That I think is in the motion before us.
Karen, do you have any comments?
I just want to say that I thank you for breaking those down. I support the standalone STR ordinance. That's what I'd like to see move forward.
I would agree with that. I prefer the standalone. I'm vehemently opposed to a special land use permit.
I do too.
Just because you're granting it to the land, not to the person, so, which can be very problematic. I would, propose that we, do move forward with,
I can
a deep dive into how we were at Ferndale's success into Delta Township's future success.
Support?
There's a motion.
Is that a motion?
There's a motion for consent.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
I was making a comment, but yeah.
Thank
go
you. Yeah.
forward.
Well, and I'd like to say with the state attempts to regulate short-term rentals, our needs are not going to be the same as an Ann Arbor or as a Ferndale or as a Manistee or a Charlevoix, you know, or an East Lansing. You know, short-term rentals are going to be different based on the municipality. And I believe that the MTA has been vehemently opposed to legislating this at the state. And so it behooves us to go ahead and do it ourselves and make sure it is tailored to Delta Township.
Did you want to make a motion?
Yep. I move that the Delta Township Board direct the planning department to create a draft short-term rental ordinance to be added to the code of ordinances for review at a future meeting.
Support.
It's been moved and seconded to move forward with the short-term rental policy. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thanks.
I do want, I know this is not, I think you're working in partnership with planning. With building on the whole issue of the Wardell Road.
Yes.
I have extreme concern about the safety of that property being used the way the current owner is using it. And so I don't know at some point, when that decision is gonna be made about issuing a rental license, but I hope that there is a very serious conversation, with our police and fire about the safety of that property where it's located before a decision is made and a rental license is granted. So
And Madam
I know
Clerk,
that doesn't come to the board, but I hope that that's a serious discussion. Yes.
On that too, I recommend the township contact Airbnb, and I don't know if they use VRBO, but oftentimes they say they will kind of self-regulate for unscrupulous property owners. And that may be helpful if you are reaching out directly.
Understood, thanks.
Madam Clerk,
Yes,
just
sir.
a point of clarification too, through the manager. So it's an Airbnb and it's not a primary residence. Is it enjoying a homestead property tax exemption because of that? Or has that been revoked?
I don't know off the top of my head, but if they're doing a rental, it should not have the.
I mean, do we know? I mean,
We do know, I just.
I don't know for sure right now, but we'll.
Could you check that out?
Yeah,
Check.
we're all aware of it at the township.
Yeah.
I'll check to see that the assessor has classified it properly
All
with
right.
that information.
Thank you.
Just lost my agenda.
Okay, we'll work on this and we'll get back to you. I don't have a specific, I left it vague in terms of dates just because we have a lot of projects, but
Right.
we'll move as quickly as possible. Thanks.
All right.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And for all of you from Wardell Road that are here speaking, please know that we hear you and we're trying to work through this. Next we have the state housing grant. I don't know who's doing that. Peter again.
I just forgot my notes.
I'm doing this. Let me see if I can get enough mics so people can hear me.
Well,
But,
I was saying they couldn't hear you, so I gave you more mic.
Thank you. So this is a piece of good news, although I don't have a lot of information. Earlier, or towards the middle of the summer, I was notified that the township had received an appropriation of $2 million to utilize for an affordable housing development project. With all we had going on, I did not admit I did not really see it in the budget. And then with everything going on, it kind of fell off the plate. But I wanted to bring that to the board, that we have received the appropriation for $2 million to be utilized for an affordable or workforce housing project. As with these types of appropriations, if you remember from our recent appropriations that we've received, fire truck, the forced main at Willow, it's often subject to guidelines and rules of the particular agency that the grant comes from. So I am still waiting for word from the specific grant agency and the grant agreement. But it follows on the heels of a lot of conversations that we've had about different housing needs in Delta and in the region. So in my memo, I won't repeat everything, but we've listed the CHIL, the HRI grant to look at our master plan. And of course, you all are aware of all the infrastructure that projects that we are doing to reinforce our capacity to serve different housing projects. Right now, and I know it's kind of a broken record that we have a lot of projects going on, a lot of different, things going on. So I know we want to bring more of these housing policy discussions to the board. So that's our goal. Currently, we are, as I mentioned in my memo, we're working with 14 different developers or housing projects in various stages. Some of those are public that you know about. Most of them are not and have not submitted any type of public documentation yet, but we are deluged with interest in housing projects of various forms. This grant that we received, hopefully we have some ideas among staff that could be a potential way to utilize it. I'm afraid to go further into depth until we understand what the rules are around it. But I think it can really give us an advantage as we look at the different types of housing. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions on that.
Andrew.
I know we're waiting on more details on the funds and how they can be utilized. I just want to offer for staff, looking at Peter, and for consideration and the board to consider too, one possible option for utilization of these funds. The city of Jackson has done, I think, a really innovative program. They used $1 million of their ARPA funds. But it's the city of Jackson's 100 homes program. And this is single family homes, first time home buyers, just really exciting. What they've done, they had exclusive contracts. They found home builders that were willing to build these at a very affordable price point to attract new residents into the community and do that very, and economically. So just something to look at, obviously a lot to consider, and I don't know what all the parameters on the grant funds will be, but something that could be a tremendous opportunity for the township to add new single-family homes.
So do you know if Jackson did it on available lots versus a project per se?
The city of Jackson had, my understanding is they had a number of vacant lots that where they demolished some blighted homes. And so it was part of combination of bringing those properties back on the tax rolls and with new housing stock.
Okay. Yes, Dennis.
Yeah, Brian, I was surprised to see this. It came out of the blue. Can you share with us if you know who the sponsor of this grant was?
Sure. Representative Whitwer.
Okay, that wasn't in the memo, so I always appreciate the hard work that our good representatives is bringing to the benefit of the township and its people. So thank you.
Absolutely. I think it's a great sign of how private and public hopefully can work together. This project or some other thing that we come up with that's specifically for Delta Township. Whether it's single family homes or whether it's apartments in the affordable or workhouse range. Affordable housing is classified as 60% of the median household income of the county. The median household income for Eaton County is $71,686 according to the 2020 census. So 60% of that is 43,001. So someone to qualify for affordable housing would be making that much money as an income, and the workforce is 75% of the median income. So this is not someone who's making minimum wage. These are families, wage earners, people who have full-time jobs, whether it's working at Amazon or Meijer or any of the other places here in Delta Township. And this gives us another route to welcome people into our township.
Thank you. So we'll just wait for more information to come. Dennis, you asked for the county millage ballot proposal to be added.
Yes, I did, Madam Clerk. Karen.
Oh, thank
I have a handout here. It's an outline to follow these the materials that I had sent to the board, and I believe there's a hard copy that has been provided to you. What I'd like to do is go through these materials quickly and open up for any discussion after that. So I appreciate the indulgence of the board.
Okay, I just want to put some parameters on this. This is not a discussion for the board to take action for support or not support of this proposal.
Well, that's a given, Madam Clerk.
Well, it's not a given this, so I just wanted to make sure we're all on the same page. So continue.
This is a committee of the whole meeting. All we do is talk about the issue. We don't make a motion. We don't take a position. correct?
So we did on the other, but go ahead.
Okay, so what I wanted to do, and there's a lot of discussions going on in the township and the county about this proposal. And a lot of it is concerning, to me anyway, with Delta Township and how some of this is being portrayed. So we have all seen mailers such as this going out. And there's been many of these. There's also been social media comments that point to this and other things. And the statements are varied, and they do toggle at times between public safety, inflation being the cause of the shortfall, the structural shortfall in the funding, technology needs, and the understaffing needs that the county is facing, as we heard from some of our officials tonight. There's also been some statements made about really what it costs a homeowner. And in the literature and also verbally, they say it's $18 a month. Well, that may be true for the county as a whole, but that 18-month equates to $72,000 taxable value of a home. Here in Delta Township, our taxable value, our average taxable value is $103,000, not $72,000. So the average taxpayer would pay over $300 a year. That's over $25 a month. There's also been multiple statements made that the Delta Patrol will be eliminated if this does not pass. And it's here in black and white. We've heard it verbally as well. And I want to come back to that because I think it's a little bit overly alarmist. But I want to have a little bit of background on the benefit of the board is to basically, how do we compare as the county of the whole? According to the U.S. Census Bureau, Delta comprises 30% of its population. It's 33,000 out of 109,000 people in Eaton County as a whole. Our taxable value, according to our own assessor, comprises about 40% of the total taxable value before the reductions are made for the carve-outs like the 425 agreement, the CIA and brownfields, for example. And there's an attachment that I'd point to on that. It was given by Ted, and it's a chart there. There's also the question is how much does Eaton County actually collect from its 5.5 allocated millage, and how much is that is from Delta Township. Now, the county doesn't actually levy the full 5.5. They have a Headley rollback, and then also because of the carve-outs, because of the brownfield and the CIA. However, Eaton County will collect, according from our own finance director, less the Headley and the brownfield and CIA, $26,700 and some $1,000 from its authorized allocated millage. Of that amount, Delta taxpayers will pay 9.9 or just under $10 million to the county. This is the allocated millage. This is all the other special millages that the township and the county as a whole provide for all the other services that are not general funded before the county. That constitutes 37% of what Delta Township taxpayers contribute to the actual general fund revenues of Eaton County for their general fund operations. And there's a review of the Eaton County's past revenue and expenditure trends. I asked for this when we had a presentation by the finance director of Eaton County. They said they did not have it. Since then, they have adopted their 2025 budget, and they have included a table on that. And I just want to point to that table, and it is this document right here. And there's just a couple items I just want to highlight on that. If you go in the middle of the table, you'll see their adopted budget of 2024-25. That's the budget they just adopted. And their property tax collections are the $25,960,000, you can see there. If you go down a little farther, you see the Delta Sheriff contract of what they have here. And that's the amount that they expect Delta Township to pay for their current fiscal year, which would go into our current year for the last 3 months and then the next 9 months calendar year for us because we have overlapping calendar years. That amount is $4,448,000. Currently, we spend $4,080,000 on that. So it's not quite a $400,000 increase. If you go down to their line below salaries, you'll see their retirement items for their adopted budget, and you'll see that's at $6.4 million. If you go back to their actual, starting in 2019-20, it was from 3.3 and then incrementally increases as to be expected to the 6.4 million they have for this current fiscal year for themselves and continues to rise. That is the legacy costs that they're facing that we also faced as well. So that is one of their outstanding pressures that they have from their budgetary structural shortfall. They also have the retirees' health that goes up. That's not quite as the amount as large as the retirement contributions that they're required to give. Further down, and this is the point I wanted to make as well, they have a deferred infrastructure cost line. And as you can see, for the previous 6 years, they had zero because it was deferred infrastructure cost. And then their estimated budget, not for the current year, because their current year budget is balanced. But the next year, it jumps up to 4.9, just under $5 million, and just under $3 million the next year, and $3.3 million after that, and it goes on and on. So what they've done here is they've said, we've deferred our infrastructure for 6 years, and now we're front loading it for the next 4 or 5 years. So that did not exist before. So that's a driver as well as what their structural deficit basis claim is. I'm not saying it's not needed. We have our own needs as well, but I just wanted to show this in black and white in the table of, how it's built into their projections. So I just wanted to also have a confirmation that the Delta Township Finance Department, Courtney, she confirmed the taxable value increase that we have had and also Eaton County has had is taxable value that went up for the last year, of which the millages are going to be assessed, went up 7%. And if you back out those carve-outs that I mentioned before, the 425 agreements and all the brownfields, it's around 6.5%. And so that has been an upward trend. And what I wanted to show here in this table, which is entitled Eaton County Millage Multi-Year General Fund Budget Projections, I have extrapolated some of the data that was here and put it here in a simpler table. And if you see the top column, this top line there, and the column that's boxed in fiscal year 24-25, you'll see that 7.45%. You'll see previous to that, their actual general fund budget, property tax collections of the 5.5 mils was 4.8% in 2021. 4.9% in 21-22, 5.43% 22-23, and 5.9% in 23-24, the current 7.45. And then what they project for their property tax, taxable value increase that they'll be able to collect only goes up 4.6% for the next 5 years. That's even below the pre-COVID amount. So they are definitely being very, very conservative as to what the taxable value collections will be from the property tax that they currently are levying from the 5.5 mils. I just wanted to point that out as well. The Delta Township contract specifically allocates 35 patrol officers, FTEs, to the township, and this is out of their budget. And you see the Delta Patrol is 35 FTEs. The Sheriff County Patrol is 44. So we have a substantial percentage of their patrol here in Delta Township that we fund. So what do we pay for? Well, if you look at then the next budget worksheet report that's in their in the handout here. This is from their backup material that aggregates into the numbers. And I won't get into detail here, but this breaks down everything in the first half of this page is the county patrol, because I'm only extrapolating the Delta patrol portion of it, which you'll see in the middle of the page. So it'll break it all down by the salaries and wages. It'll break it down by all the social security, and included in there is the retirement. You can see that's a substantial amount. For the adopted budget, it's $1.2 million. So again, these are the legacy costs of the retirement costs that the county has to pay, which we have to pay as well. So we have the same pressures, but that's where that legacy cost is built into the Delta Patrol contract. And this is their budget, not the actual contract, but that basis of that number though falls into a negotiated contract that we have. The last page is the Delta Patrol, the summary of our Delta Patrol contract charges. And it's this simple chart right here I got from Brian a while ago. Now, this is not for the next fiscal year, but this was as a result of the negotiations with the county in August of 2023 that went into 2024. Am I correct on that, Brian? That it's still current?
Yes.
Okay. So
Current through September 30th, 25.
no, to our fiscal.
No,
year.
this is just the annual
Yeah.
costs or
Yeah, this is our
budget
fiscal year.
computation that the county sends us
Right.
each year and gets adopted.
So I'm not going to go through this line by line, but you can see it's broken down by the wages and the fringes and the personnel. And it's also got the capital outlay costs and all those types of things. And then it also has what the county officials had characterized as their credit, that what they perceive, what they calculate to be rather their amount that Delta Township contributes through its 5.5 mil taxes that are levied against the Delta Township residents that would be attributable to this contract. And that is the less SEV credit line item you see there at 36.46%, the $2 million. Now, they characterize that as well, it's their collection and they are crediting it, but they're acknowledging that this money actually is the proportional amount that they receive from Delta Township residents from the 5.5 levied mills, not just for the Delta Patrol, but for every other general funded department in the county. So that's true, but they only track it for our contract because we have an additional contract amount that we do give them in order to sustain our Delta Patrol function. In addition to the $4,080,000 you see there that we give them and the SEV credit of $2 million, we also are levied a computation tax of 15% of $735,000. So that's an administrative fee for overhead, I guess, or something like that. So that's what our contract is based on now. And I would maintain that we and the Delta Township taxpayers are actually contributing $6 million for the Delta Patrol. Now, I just wanted the board to understand what the basics of the numbers are here, because I'm kind of disturbed by the narrative that's being discussed out there. And the narrative is basically, yes, there are all these needs. Yes, there's the infrastructure. Yes, there's public safety and all that. But the narrative implies that it's going to come to a screeching halt and collapse. And that is just not true. I mean, if this passes, they'll have a 3% increase in the taxable value of the allocated millage in perpetuity. If it does not pass, then they will have the current revenue plus the 6% additional of the taxable value that's been added to their tax base, just like we have. And yes, they will be constrained because of the shortfall that they have, and they can't have all the FTE positions that they hire. And we have faced the same situation, but it is not going to be the immediate end of our Delta Patrol. And my concern is that not only verbally, but also in writing, that's what's being implied. And so I just feel that it needs to be answered and needs to be explained to the Delta Township residents that is just not true. And I'm happy to have an open conversation on this.
Well, I am impressed that you know the decisions that the county board's gonna make. So you have more insight in their final decisions than I do,
Well, if I may respond,
because
they say in their documents that they will definitely levy the full 3 mills for a number of years. They say that specifically.
in the immediate, yes.
Well, that immediate can be undetermined. So, but the immediate will be the 3 mills, I'm just saying. But that's not my point, Madam Clerk. My point is that it's being portrayed in the narratives. If this doesn't pass, it is all going to come to a crashing halt. And again, that is just not true.
That's what I'm saying. I don't feel I'm in a position to make that decision. You do, I don't. I just want to clarify a couple things, and that is Delta has an enormous business and commercial tax base. And so when you talk about the residents, it's really all, this is not all on the homeowner. This is our businesses and our commercial areas are contributing to that as well. They should. And for clarity, we have a contract with Looking Glass Regional Fire Authority, and we charge an admin fee. It's not uncommon. It is common that there is an admin fee charged. We charge an admin fee for a number of things. So it's not unique to our sheriff's contract. Beth.
I would also like to speak out about Treasurer Fedowa's concern about the narrative. When I received mailers about this, I was also confused and upset. Also, some articles that I read from WLNS first of all, stating that this was specifically a public safety millage. Whereas that is a bit of a distortion because it would allow this money to go into general fund. It would pay for all of those. So maybe you say, yes, the greatest need is for our courts or for our prosecutor's office or for our sheriff. But I want it to be clear to our residents exactly what it is they are voting for or against. Also, it's never mentioned that, yes, this is not a millage in the way of it'll come up again for renewal. This is forever in perpetuity if it's passed. And that is never mentioned. The $18 average, as soon as I saw that, I looked mine up. I don't think that you should portray it as a particular average because then that forgets that people's homes are worth different things. And then it clouds the conversation also about, you know, what you as a homeowner or as a business owner are going to have to pay for this. And also, I don't like our residents being scared and hearing this narrative that, well, if you don't vote for this, then there are going to be no cops to come and help you and do anything. And I just think that is a scare tactic that as a representative of the people who live here, it is my responsibility to publicly say that it is not going to come to a screeching halt. As Treasurer Fedowa said, there still will be money. Property values are still going up and we pay extra for the Delta Patrol. This is extra money that we put into the general fund of the county. And I'm also concerned at what he found that the projections do not seem to be projecting what the property values will actually be going up in the fiscal years after this. Yes, courts are important. Police is important. Prosecuting attorney, public health is important. We want all those services, but we also want to know that our money is being spent responsibly on the services that we designate and that we have the best allocation of those funds. And so thank you for bringing all of this data to us that we can look at hard numbers.
I do want to clarify, and Brian, you can correct me if I'm wrong, our contract ends September 30th of 2025. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you. Did you have something, Karen?
No, go ahead.
Andrea?
No,
Just a moment, because you've had the floor. Let me see. Do you have?
I'm fine. Thank
Okay.
you.
I'm just letting
Yes.
you know. I'm not
Okay.
trying to interject.
You're on.
Thank you. So I just want to give an anecdotal comment because I've experienced this sort of situation before. And my last position as Deputy Director of the Department of Natural Resources brought before a license fee increase that was long overdue after 10 years of being frozen. And this is a cyclical thing that the Department of Natural Resources has to experience. It was that their fishing and hunting licenses get raised and then they're frozen for 10 years. And then the cost of living and all the inflationary factors start to outpace the ability to perform the program requirements that staff have to do, the fish biologists, the wildlife biologists, the forestry and the whole thing. So it's always a political thing that when you raise license fees in that venue, just because of the culture Michigan has with its hunting and fishing culture. And it's always been a struggle. But, you know, I thought it was required after 10 years that the Board of Commissioners, the DNR, take a look at it. They said yes. And I said, if we don't do it, that the ability to perform the functions of staff at the level that we're doing now will continue to go down. So what happened? What happened is that certain people in the department then translated that as that, well, we won't have any money after the next fiscal year, which was not true, and that we would have to lay off all the conservation officers. The backlash was ferocious because it wasn't true. All right. And it's the same situation in the scenario that we have here is that, oh, there's a structural deficit. Yes, times are tight. They're going to get tighter, but it isn't going to be an all or nothing situation where it collapses within the next year. And so the backlash was severe and the department and the leadership of the department took a heavy hit. And, you know, I just try to avoid this because I see the same sort of sensationalism being used here. You know, I ask the colleagues that are on the commission, I said, well, why haven't you put out here's a cutback plan if you don't get it? I mean, what areas, not necessarily who in what positions, but what areas, what are the priorities? Oh, we can't do that. People would be employees would be scared, you know, and then they're going to leave. They're going to leave if they think that they're on the chopping block or their area. Well, what is the county doing right now? They're saying that, well, we're going to cut the Delta Patrol entirely. So they're doing the exact same thing. So I don't like it. I think it's detrimental. And we need to have a more honest conversation about this and tell our colleagues in the county, yes, we understand your needs, your structural deficit. Our township has dealt with stuff too. We have done cutbacks and we have experienced the same things. We have gone out for millages that were targeted and we don't have the luxury of a 3 mil permanent allocated increase that the county has. We just don't. We're capped at 5 mils. So we're forced to go and ask for very specific millages, whether that be a sheriff substation of $14.5 million, whether it's a public safety millage to help, you know, offset our general fund shortfalls that we're having for our first responders. But that's what we do. And we're in the same boat. We've taken a different approach. And I understand the county commissioners wanting to take this approach if they can do it. But I don't like the narrative that's being presented to the public because it is not correct. And so that's why I wanted to bring the real, you know, the assumptions that are built into their budget and their projections and what the basis is of that, that constitutes a part of the narrative, not the entire amount, Madam Clerk, part of the narrative of what their structural deficit consists of. And I appreciate the indulgence of the board. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. I just want to also, for the final comment, clarify that I believe almost every county in the state of Michigan levies 18 mills. Eaton's late to the party. So, with that, I move that the Delta Township Board adjourn to closed session at the request of the township manager under the Open Meetings Act, Act 267 of 1976, Section 8, 1H, MCL 15.268, 1H, to consider an attorney-client privilege communication which constitutes material exempt from discussion or disclosure by state or federal statute. Would you please call roll?
All right. Madam Clerk,
Yes.
Trustee Cascarilla,
Yes.
Trustee Bowen,
Yes.
Trustee Mohica,
Yes.
Treasurer Fido is a yes. You have 5 votes, Madam Clerk.
We shall return. Thank you. I call the meeting back to order. Manager Reed.
Business.
Yeah, I'm asking, sorry. Could you speak to,
Oh,
sorry,
speak to that.
yes, the
Um,
supervisor appointment. Sorry. I thought you could read my mind.
Sure. So the township has sought numerous legal advice on the supervisor appointment, and as everybody knows, there's an intervening election, so it makes it very complex to appoint somebody when it will be nullified on November 5th. So I think if there's probably consensus that the clerk continues to act as supervisor until the election is over and the window of after the election, we get some resolution on what the future is, and then an appointment will be made.
For point of clarity, that's December 31st at 11:59 PM. That would be the end of. Assuming that.
Confusion.
Supervisor Fletcher would receive sufficient votes to move forward.
So
Yes,
is there,
Yes.
is there any, the consensus on
Yes,
that?
yes, yes.
And then,
Support.
I know another question. Oh, sorry. A question was asked, at the last board meeting, and has been asked by several people. If Clerk Clark, is paid extra for, the acting supervisor, and the answer to that is no, she retains the clerk's salary. And just volunteers her time as supervisor.
Okay, anybody else have
other-
questions?
No,
We're good?
no comment.
Okay, I think the only thing left.
Manager's report, final comments.
All right. Um. Wasn't sure why the manager's report wasn't moved up in the agenda, amendment, the crowd was still here, but that's.
We just
all
wanted to
right.
hear you.
You're welcome, Manager Reed.
A couple events, this week. We have our trick or treat trail at Lansing Mall, which is Wednesday, the 9th, from 5:30 to 7:30. Fire prevention week is this week. We do have our fire open house. That'll be Thursday, the 10th, from 6 to 8:30 at Station 1. So if you've never had a chance to attend those, both are great events. We usually get over 1,000 kids at the trick or treat trail. And we usually have a very good showing at the fire open house. Sheriff's substation project's going very well. When you drove in, you see they did install the new gutter pan across the driveway to Fire Station 1 today. There's a lot of activity, concrete, asphalt happening there. Also installed quite a few of the windows today, so that project is really taking shape. I know we had the comment on the St. Joe project earlier. I believe Jake and Rick caught up with the Waverly board members, but that project is actually proceeding very well. Almost have the pathway completed to the school on West of Snow, and then the water main is going east of Snow. So they're making good progress, have several crews out there. We are trying to work with the school to accommodate the homecoming activities for that. So, and I know as I mentioned at previous meetings, I know a lot of these projects cause a lot of inconveniences, but they're very important projects, especially the St. Joe project, because it will create a lot less inconveniences over the next 20 or 30 years by not having water main breaks in the street, and also give quite a bit safer routes to school with a 10-foot pathway now instead of the sidewalk, but certainly recognize the inconvenience for the students. And we have communicated with all the residents in the school. Mary does a good job of putting out the newsletter, project updates. I think there's over 150 people on that list for St. Joe. So we try to communicate weekly on what's going on with that. I just wanted to thank the board members again for our in-service and employee appreciation luncheon. A couple weeks ago went very well, was very well received by employees. And a lot of them did recognize, the board members being there, and meant a lot to them on that. So appreciate that. And give my appreciation to Jake Kleinhentz. He pinch hit for me and gave our township presentation to the Friends of the Lansing Regional Trails as I came down ill. So probably did a better job than I would have done. So thanks, Jake.
Do you want to vote on that?
Yeah. Marcus has been working hard. We received our scores for our 2 DNR grant applications. So we had a short time to try to increase those scores by providing some additional information. So that's the the Mall Ivan Elmwood pathway and then the Delta Mills to Hawk Meadow pathway that we sought DNR funds for those. And I think that is all, Madam Supervisor. I'm happy to answer any questions from the board.
Not a question, but Brian, as you were talking about a couple of township events, it reminded me, and this isn't a township sanctioned event, but an event happening here in the community. I have a lot of colleagues that work in the clean energy space, and there's a nonprofit that's coming into Delta Township, Solarize. And they are hosting an event. So just share for the board members, if anyone's interested in stopping by, you're invited. It is October 23rd at the library at 6 p.m. But it's an event for residents in the community who might be interested in rooftop solar. They are partnering with some developers that are very reputable and with federal tax credits and discounts that are given for a number of people in the community that might do this. There are significant reductions in costs. So just want to let folks know, they asked that board members all are, extend an invitation. If you're interested in stopping by, obviously something for residents as well. I have a flyer I can share with everyone, but just wanted to make mention of that coming up in our community.
Thank you. I just will real quick, give a little update on, ballots. We to date have issued, 9,967 ballots with 26% of them returned. Today, we had 756 ballots come back, which I'll just translate to a wild office day. And we issued almost 100 ballots, so we're getting a lot of apps still. It makes a huge difference. It's been for people to be able to go to michigan.gov/vote and submit their app online. We get it as soon as it's processed in our inbox. Typically, we do the inboxes in the morning, but we got ballots coming in the inbox this afternoon. Afternoon even. So we almost broke our record from 2020 today on ballots received in one day. Wow. So we will be starting early voting on the 26th of October because we, for consistency's sake, have the same hours every election, each of the days. We will be having early voting on Halloween until 7 p.m. So we're probably gonna push for maybe some families to come and trick or treat here and vote. So luckily, nobody has children at home that work in my office that they would need to take trick or treating. So anyway,
Drink some more.
we have a lot of people going. Big election, lots of interest. So
Thank you for that update. That's exciting to hear about those numbers.
that's all I have. Anyone else?
No.
If not,
Public comment?
Any public comment?
Okay. What?
Whatever.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'd like to thank you all for having us here. And although it wasn't a lot of notice, we appreciate knowing that the Eaton County proposal would be up for discussion today. So I just want to hit on a couple of points. So first off, average infrastructure in Eaton County is 36 years old is the average building age. The courthouse is 46 years old. We have 2 elevators they don't even make parts for anymore, that when those break down, those are very real infrastructure expenses. And I'll tell you, we've got 2 in the courthouse. The one the public uses, that's one of the ones that's going to break. The other one is the one that they use to transport prisoners from jail to court cases. So just putting out there, we will have people having an experience that they would not like if they're going to court for whatever reason they're there. If they're disabled and that's their only way to get to the second floor. You've got staff working on top of each other. You can reorganize the space with cubicles as much as you want. There are limits to a building that was designed 46 years ago. Deferred maintenance, we talk about technology. You guys don't have a police force. We manage the tech on that, but let me talk. Body cams, storage for both the prosecutor and the public defender's office. Those are real expenses that go up dramatically. And I don't think you've really taken that into consideration. Your fire is very expensive. You're paying for a lot of the same things we are, retirement, infrastructure pieces, but what you don't have is that added liability that comes with managing a police service, which we've done willfully for years, and we have a great relationship. I gotta tell you, I hear you, but we're scared too. This is real, and what I would summarize was the county was being accused of bluffing, and I just gotta tell you, in 1978, we set our tax allocation level. We haven't come back to the voters. This is the first time a unanimous decision of 15 commissioners of both parties put it out there. So I just got to say, we're not playing poker. We take the public good very seriously. And so any insinuation of the other was, I got to say, I would have loved to have had that discussion in a way that would have been more productive. But to be honest, it felt like, I don't even know what to say. We are working our tails off for the people of Eaton County, and we hope you see it, and we hope you know it. You can trust this administration. We're doing everything we can.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, sir, what's your name?
Ben Dawson, Deputy Administrator, Eaton County.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Hello, good evening. I'm Linda Markward. I live at 204 Geneva Circle. I want to talk about this potential pilot ordinance change. Having read the League of Women's Voter Guide, I see that affordable housing is in fact a top priority for you, Beth, for you, Andrea, and for Fonda. And on a personal level, I support housing access at all income levels. My concern is how this has been managed. I think that ordinance modifications should be done with input from several community stakeholders, not done with decision made by the board behind closed doors, discussed. I think that residents, neighborhood associations, nonprofit groups, foundations, other community groups, developers should all weigh in on this. This is an important decision. And honestly, my concern started with the fact that when the rezoning hearing was made on the property, Andrea, that you and Chuck purchased off of Earlington Lane, the people that came to that meeting, their concerns were just dismissed out of hand. Your husband was asked, how many apartments are you planning on building? How many stories will the building be? What will the rental ranges be? His response was, I'm a realtor. I'm not a developer. We haven't run those numbers. He was not asked to come back and provide that information to the people that were there. And I think, frankly, if those people hadn't been friends of yours, they probably would have made that request. I'm glad we have a representative from the True Law Firm here tonight, because this is an obvious conflict of interest. I speak from a personal place in knowing that my grandfather was sued for a decision made when he served on the township board. He recused himself from the decision, but he was sued. This lawsuit was protracted over many years. He gave his final deposition at the age of 80, came home and had a heart attack. And he spent tens of thousands of dollars defending his good name. So I'm just asking all of you to really think about this important issue. This is an important change for our community. And I really want you to consider setting up some kind of forum, some kind of commission where people can have input into this. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Linda.
Connie Sylvie, the county administrator. Well, I appreciate the comments made tonight, and I do appreciate you looking at our budget. I do wish you would have been there September 10th for our budget hearing to ask those questions to the Board of Commissioners. I want to say you talk about literature going out in relationship to this ballot proposal. The literature going out that is a vote yes is coming from a ballot question committee. they're going to make the statements they make. I want you to recall that when you put out a public safety millage, you indicated in some of that material that that money would go toward increasing deputies' wages. That wasn't a possibility. So we are the ones negotiating wages. This is Eaton County Sheriff's Department. You have a contract with us. It's a great contract. We should have this contract. It's good business. Brian Reed and I have talked about this for years. This is a great relationship. It shouldn't change. But it is not fear tactics at all that we're going to look at eliminating road patrol. It's a fact. It's just a fact, like it or not. I met today with Lieutenant Dahlgren and Captain Block and Chief Deputy Seidel. We are meeting with them on October 10th to talk about their layoff provisions within their contract. It's not an easy discussion. We met with our legal counsel to go through that. It is not easy. We are going through that with every department. Like it or not, that's the situation the county's in. I welcomed email correspondence from you. I had to have our finance director reach out to you a second time. And we were here for you. We attended a meeting. We came back the next Monday. We held a town hall at the library. We're here to answer questions. We're here to answer your questions. My door is always open. Finance director's door is open. This is not a joke. It's serious. Thank you.
Thanks, Connie. Any other public comments before we close? If not, we stand adjourned.